So a lot of people think that being sustainable and reducing your waste has to cost money or has to be expensive. And of course there are things that you can do to be more sustainable that do cost money. But there are also a lot of things that you can do that actually save you money. And so I wanted to talk about 15 things that I personally do or use. These are just things that work for my life and are practical for me. And I totally understand if not all these are practical for everyone else. I'm a big advocate for just doing what you can do and what you want to do, honestly. Because not everyone wants to like have their entire life revolve around trying to be sustainable. There's so much more of an impact when a lot of us are taking just a few small steps in our lives to reduce our waste or our impact instead of just a few people going all out and being zero waste. So my first low waste swap that can save you money is using reusable napkins over paper towels. A couple months back, I picked up a set of 4 of these cloth, I think they're linen napkins, from Target, and I use these in place of paper toweling. I keep one in my purse and then the other 3 I just keep in my kitchen. So when I'm eating, I'm kind of a messy eater, and so, you know, use these. And then the only money that I guess it technically costs, other than the upfront cost of buying them, is, you know, to clean them, you put them in the laundry, but I have other things that go in the laundry too. So over time, if you're not using any paper towels or very little paper towels, you're saving a lot of money, because a lot of people, we go through paper towels on such a regular basis. In a couple years, you know, it's gonna start to add up, and so these are really nice things to have. Another thing I don't use or buy is trash bags, and I know that a lot of people just use like the plastic bags that you get from grocery stores, and in that case you're not spending any money. But what I found works for me is that I just use plastic bags that other things come in for items that I don't want to just directly place in my trash can. So for example, any food item that comes in plastic is what I use for the most part. So like any kind of frozen mock meat thing comes in a plastic bag, pretzels, tortilla chips. I use those for things that I don't want to directly place in my trash can. Like if I have some leftover food that I forgot to eat and it got spoiled, and I don't want to like put it down the garbage disposal, then I'll put it in there, or just something that's sticky, you know. But then another thing is that I did recently start composting since I moved to San Antonio, and so a lot of my food waste, like fruit peels and whatever, I'm not putting in the trash at all. So it works for me. It might not work for everyone else, but yeah, that's something you can do. Another way you can save money is by cutting down your use on single-use plastic bags. Now I still use plastic bags. I still have probably like 5 or 6 different ones, and basically what I do is once I'm done using them, I wash them out, let them dry, and then I use them again until they rip or something like that. And when I used to work at Hobby Lobby as cashier, I did have 1 day a week where I worked long enough hours to have a lunch break, and I'd bring something in a plastic bag every day. And it took about a year before the bag started to like break down in any way that I didn't want to use it anymore. And so they can actually last a pretty long time. And so that's a way to save money if you're really frugal, because you can just buy a thing of plastic bags and then just reuse them for a long time. Another thing you can do is get like a silicone stasher bag, for example. I think this was around $10, and so this is definitely not practical for you to just like stock up on a lot of these if you're trying to save money, but it is an option. And of course, using Tupperware for things over plastic bags when possible. Of course, like if there's certain circumstances where it's like you don't want to have just a ton of Tupperware stuff that you're carrying around if you're going to school or work, or if you're going hiking. Yeah, in general, I just recommend getting like some good quality plastic bags and then washing them out and reusing them as much as possible until you can't anymore. Instead of buying new rags, you can just use old clothing. So for example, I cut these sleeves off of some shirt a while ago, and so I use these for anything that's kind of like gross and I don't want to use just a regular cloth for. And then you can of course just use these for like everyday rags. They don't have to be for gross stuff, but that's just personally what I use them for, so I thought I'd mention it. For those who don't have access to bulk food stores, or the bulk food stores in their area are really expensive, something that you can do that is cheaper in almost every case, I'm sure, and saves money is just buying really big quantities of things that you of course eat a lot. You know, you don't want to buy like oranges in bulk if you don't really eat them that much because they're just gonna go to waste. Things like rice or oats, you know, that stay good for a really long time are great things to buy in bulk because you're gonna save a lot of money by just buying the larger quantities. And so the way that this is less wasteful, of course, is that just buying things in bigger quantities requires less packaging. You know, if I were to buy, how much is this? This is 25 pounds. So if I bought 2 bags of like 17-pound items, there would be more packaging involved because, I mean, just think if it's divided down here, then there'd be extra packaging going in there. That doesn't make any sense, but I'm sure everyone knows what I'm saying anyways. Next up, I bet you never thought of this, but using less water. If you pay your own water bill, then of course this is going to save money. Some ways that you can do this is obviously taking shorter showers, not flushing the toilet as often when you're just going #1 in it, using a lot less dishwater when you're doing dishes. Whenever my stepdad does dishes, he fills like the entire sink with water. It's almost like splashing out of it. And I learned from living in a van where it's like I had to pump out my water by hand and only had a 5-gallon water tank, had to go to certain places to fill up my water. So I was really trying to conserve water because it was just a lot more convenient to do that. You need so little water for washing dishes, and actually a lot of times you don't even need to heat up the water at all. Of course, using hot water like gets rid of germs or bacteria or whatever. Honestly, I'm not much of like a germaphobe, or I don't really worry about that, or I just don't really care about that in general. So I find that my dishes look spotless even when I use cold water, and so that really helps because it's like in some sinks you have to leave the water running forever before it gets to hot water. So normally what I do when I wash dishes is I just fill up like a pan or a bowl with probably like this much water and some soap obviously, and then I just scrub all my things with that, use a tiny bit of water to rinse the soap off of them, and that's all you really need to do. One of my favorite low waste swaps is this reusable silicone baking sheet or mat. And so I believe I got this from Target many years ago, and there's like a ton of places you can probably buy them online. Of course, you can buy anything online, but this is like a replacement for aluminum foil or parchment paper. And so when you're baking things in the oven, you just lay this out over a cookie sheet, and then of course you have to wash it once you're done with it, which takes time. A lot of these things, you know, they'll save you money, but they are gonna take a little bit extra time. Something I made the mistake of not doing in the beginning of my low waste journey, and I know a lot of other people do as well, is reusing glass jars instead of buying them new. I thought that I had to buy a bunch of new glass mason jars so that I could buy bulk foods and put them in there, and that's totally not true. If I were to go and look in my fridge right now, I probably have like 20 different things that are in glass jars that once I'm done using them, I can wash them out and I can reuse them up for other stuff. And so for example, things that I've done before was I had some vegan mayo in here, and now I put some nutritional yeast in there. I think there was a salsa in here, Brazil nuts, and I think there was like some jelly in here, and now I have some garlic in there. Something else you can do is go to a secondhand store and see if they have any sort of like glass jars. They don't even have to be glass. Like buying new glass materials is not more sustainable than buying secondhand plastic materials. So something I did was I went rummage sailing and I picked myself up 3 of these for I think $1 each. And so these are nice because, you know, a lot of mason jars aren't super big, and so I have some rice in 2 of these and then some granola in another one. So don't let yourself get caught up in buying more sustainable materials new when whatever material you buy secondhand or someone just decides to give to you, those are always going to be a more eco-friendly option than buying anything new. Something that might save you a tiny little bit of money is setting your fridge and your freezer to just a little bit less cool of settings. Personally, for like the foods that I have in there, I found that this works fine, nothing goes bad. I set them to as warm, I guess, as they can possibly go. And so if you're paying for your electric bill, then it might be a couple cents cheaper. I've only ever paid for 1 electric bill in my life so far, so I can't really say how much it's gonna save you, I don't know, but it definitely will save you money. To go along with that, not using your AC and your heat as much, or just using them at more intermediate temperatures. I don't know how else to say that, but so far since I've been living in Texas, it's been usually in like the upper 80s or the 90s every day, and I haven't really had to turn on my AC that much. I have it set to go on at 75 when I have it on, and I do like being really warm, but I just kind of like get used to being a little more hot than I'd like to be and a little more cold than I like to be in certain circumstances, because I know it'll save me money and it'll save energy. And so same with heat, like wearing more layers instead of turning on the heat, loading up with blankets. Don't know how likely I'll be to do that when it gets colder here, because I like to be warm, like I said, but it's something that you can consider. Number 11 is a safety razor. I know everyone always talks about these. Honestly, everything I've listed so far, I feel like everyone always talks about, but my videos will reach people that other people's videos won't. So I have used this for probably like 2 years now, and I really like it. So this is a safety razor if you've never seen one before, and basically this part of it can last you a lifetime unless you break it or something. And then all you need to do is get the little blades. The kind that came with the razor I got came in this little cardboard thing, which of course can be recycled, and then the individual blades come wrapped in like this wax paper, which, to be honest, I don't know if this can be recycled. I've asked a few times in videos and I feel like no one else really knows either, because I don't remember ever seeing anybody let me know. But if you do know, please let me know down below. But then it comes with these razors, which just go in there. These can last usually a couple months. I suppose it depends on how often you shave. I only shave every few months, so they last much, much longer. And these will save you so much money, because since you're only buying these, you can get, I don't remember what it is, but it's packs of like dozens of them for less than $10. And I don't know a lot about this, but I know that the razors can be disposed of in like sharps containers, which I've seen in bathrooms before, and then I believe they also have them at like hospitals and those kind of places. Some people have told me that this wouldn't be a good option for them because they have a history with self-harming, and so I think in that case you could try something like sugar waxing. I made a video on that because I wanted to try it, and that was a reason why I wanted to try it, because people had told me that they wouldn't want to use this, and I didn't really like it. It was really hard. Another thing you could do is just get those razors that have the detachable head thing to it, so instead of throwing out the entire razor, you're just doing the head. Number 12 is that you can hang dry your clothing, and so basically just take any kind of string or twine that you have. What I use is this twine that I've had for a long time, and I just hang it outside on my little patio, and this will save you a little bit of money on dryer fees if you have to go to a laundromat, for example, and then of course like a water bill if you have your own washer and dryer in your house. Anyone who has a period can try out some reusable menstrual products, and so of course we have the menstrual cup. I'm not going to take it out of there because some people get kind of fussy about that. But what I've learned from using menstrual cup for many years and making a video about how it doesn't work for me is that a lot of people share the same struggles of trying every single thing possible that anyone could ever recommend to them, and it still doesn't work, and trying different cups, all that kind of stuff just still doesn't work. It leaks a little bit, and so I use this, but I also use cloth pads along with it. And so basically what you do, I'll show you this one because it's black so you can't see any little stains, but they just fold up real nicely like this, and then you open them up like so, and that's the inside of it. And so then you put this on your underwear, and then you snap it over your underwear, and so say my hand is my underwear, okay? And that's just like that. And they make tons of different sizes of this, and so I have like little panty liner sizes, and then I have overnight sizes. And once you're done with them, what I do to clean mine is I just kind of rinse them with water, get as much of the blood out as I can in the sink, and then you put some soap on them and put them in a little thing of water, let them soak for a couple hours overnight, and then you let them dry and they're good to go. If you want to know the brands that I use, and I recommend both of them because I really like them, this one that I have, I only have one from their brand, but it's Luna pads, and they're like really soft, but a little bit thicker because of that. And then I have a bunch from the brand Hannah Pad, and I really, really like this brand, although I do think they ship from like Australia, so in a way that's not going to be as sustainable, but I could be wrong. It could be Canada. I'm pretty sure Luna pads ships from Canada. Yeah, there's a ton of good brands out there, so just do some research and find which ones appeal to you. When you're not using something, unplugging it actually saves a little bit of energy because there's still like a current going through it. There's still power being used by having something plugged in even when you're not using it. I'm definitely not excellent at doing this, but like when I'm not using my little fan, I unplug that. I try to unplug my phone and computer as soon as they're done charging, unless I'm charging them overnight. Like I really try to keep the things that I have plugged in to a minimum. So I guess the only things that would be plugged in technically would be like my microwave, my stove, my fridge. I think those plug in, right? My internet router thing. And that's really all that I leave plugged in on a regular basis. And lastly, a very obvious one, but I just feel like it's good for people to really know this, that buying secondhand is one of the most sustainable things that we can all do that saves us a lot of money. And that doesn't just go for clothing, you know, like a lot of people shop secondhand for clothing, but it's not as common to do so for furniture, which is understandable because when I was looking for furniture for my apartment, there was just not a whole lot of good options out there, but it doesn't hurt to check. And even electronics, that's something I definitely didn't think of for a long time until recently, and I think a lot of people don't. Like, you can buy a used phone that's still in good condition and it'll be a little cheaper and it'll be better than creating demand for a new product to be made, especially because there's such a huge e-waste problem, as it's called, like electronic waste problem, and a lot of the electronics that we use are made really unsustainably. And so looking at places like, of course, regular secondhand stores, but then also online, you know, Craigslist, eBay, Facebook Marketplace, any of the apps that are out there like Buns, Let Go, OfferUp, there's probably so many more. It's really good to check a lot of those places before you want to buy something if you're able to, but also unfortunately you're not always going to be able to find everything secondhand. Like when I was looking for a toaster for my apartment, I looked at so many different places and plugged in so many different toasters at the locations, and probably did 15 to 20 of them, and they all smelled like they could explode at any minute, and I didn't really want to buy that, so I had to get a new one. So it's not always going to be possible to find amazing secondhand options, especially if you don't live in a big city. Like that's where I was looking for the toasters, in a small city. The options aren't very great, but like I said, it doesn't hurt to check. It just takes a little bit more time. So those are my 15 lowest swaps that can save you from a little bit of money to quite a bit of money long term. And please leave yours down below. It's always great to share our knowledge in the comments. If you want to know what other kind of low waste products I'm currently using, you can check out my website. The links are always down below for that. So yeah, thanks for watching.